Hello, thank you so much for coming to the Sashiko Live Streaming. This is Atsushi. It's Thursday night, 9 p.m. August 8th. This is the live streaming where I talk about Sashiko while doing Sashiko stitching. So there's not gonna be that much movement over the camera. I will share the stitching I always do. But there will not be any lecture tutorials or other teaching happening. So if you can bring your own Sashiko stitching materials or any other, crafting things, and if you could hear this as like a radio or some live streaming without visual much, that'd be really appreciated. Jim, let me just take a, yeah, the audio is good. There's a little bit of storm coming, and I do have several backup batteries, so should be okay. But if any chance the live streaming got cut off, that can be because of the lightning and also power down. What do you call that? Not a blackout. I forgot that word. Power outage. All right. Any announcement? It was a very good workshop in New York, Brooklyn. Thank you so much for those who came. I enjoyed a lot. And as I wrote today's topic, the no plans for the rest of 2024 besides the Japan trip. And the Japan tour, Sashiko Japan Tour for 2024 is now booked, fully booked. I am, in fact, planning one more in 2025. So I don't know when exactly. I still am working on the 2024, but at the same time, your interest on that next coming tour is not a tour. Yeah, it's Sashiko tour is very much appreciated. So for the details, please check the description area, and I will keep you on the list. Besides that, I do not have any workshop coming in this 2024 anymore. It's still August, but I do not have anything planned. And it does not mean that I don't want to do it. It's just the beginning of the year, I decided to not to schedule any workshop from September to December because of several conditions. So it was something I designed to do. At the same time, the situation change, condition change. So if there's any workshop opportunities that you can organize, or if you want to be the organizer, I'm happy to open that possibility. Okay, that being said, I will move to the actual stitching. I will change the camera and I will start reading the comment section. And the same stitching, same materials again. The reason I keep doing that is I want to finish it. I don't know how I'm gonna feel about it after completing it, but so I have this one on the table here next to that, and it a little bit bothers me. So I will just try to finish this one as fast as I can, and then I will move to something else later on. Yeah, it bothers me a little bit. Good evening to everybody. I hope that I am. So the whole goal of this live streaming is to create a place for anybody to join. One thing that I kind of request here is to be interested in Sashiko or like Sashiko, and I hope that I can create a kind of place for anybody to be. And we call that ibasho in Japanese. I would like to make sure that I would like to have a place for people who enjoy Sashiko, a place to be. California, yes, I hope I can go to California at some point. for some reason, most of the workshop opportunities until now is on the East Coast. Well, I mean, I don't really do many workshops, to be honest. You know, I kind of cap it to 6 times a year. And those 6 times include the workshop in New York and Brooklyn, as well as the QuiltCon and the workshop in the Florida IF5 studio. So technically speaking, there are 3 available every year. And so it's not, you know. I would like to have enough time for myself to stitch as well, but at the same time, yes, I would love to go to California at some point. Everybody's from California? Not everybody, but many. So at least 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow. I really appreciate that. I was in the Berkeley 2022. San Francisco Berkeley. And I'm not denying any offers, so. Well, one day. Well, actually, I was kind of saying no, very humbly. I was saying no to some offers at the beginning of this year. So my wife works in the university academic not academic, but university setting. So her busy time is September to December, and then January to May or so. So it's like 2 semesters. She is very busy, and she doesn't get off because she's a staff side, but she gets off. Her workload decrease over summer. And last year it was quite harsh on her that I was traveling so much, and I decided not to put any workshop or traveling between September and December, besides the Japan trip. And then because of that, I decided to take my daughter to the Japan trip because I did not want to leave her in the US with her responsibility. And situation changed, condition changed, and she changed her job, which is less pressure, less income, but less pressure. So technically speaking, I am more free for that matter. So that's the change I am explaining sometimes on Instagram. I have more freedom, yet I need to chip in. I would like to chip in more to the family finance for that matter. Anyhow, I am in New York, but I went to UCLA. Wow, it's a very good college. So Sashiko-san is near Berkeley, and one of the rich LA folks will send a plane. Yeah, if they send me the plane, I'll love to be there. It's not. I have read somewhere, but there's like a cruise, going on for the quilting group, but there was a Sashiko teacher invited to like a cruising where they teach Sashiko, and that sounds so awesome. Wow. It took 5 years for me to arrange or even start thinking differently that Sashiko can be a retreat. And I will be offering this Sashiko retreat for the first time in next year, 2025. So my workshop for 3 days or either 2 days, 1 day is quite teaching and learning opportunities. It's a lot. And some people get excited, some people get overloaded. And it's a workshop, and it has to be, in my understanding, it has to be, full of learning. But it's not, I don't know if they relax after my 3 days workshop. They have fun, but I think they're really bit tired. And it should be like that, I guess. And this time I will be focusing, the content itself is very similar to 3 days workshop, but at the same times I will add some of the like our ordinary, yet probably somebody's very extraordinary to kind of retreat yourself. So that's gonna be what's coming. I don't know why I'm here though. It's just mumbling. Please don't hear this one. Please don't listen to me. But I don't know why. Well, I know why I'm here, but I sometimes wonder why though. Yeah. Well, security, stability, I guess. But weird immigrant family. My wife is not from the US. She has become citizen already. She is a citizen, but she's not from this country originally. So we don't have any immediate family in the US. So it's pretty much 4 of us. Well, 3 of us and 4 of us. It's me, my wife, and my daughter, and then the cat, Sakura. So 4 of us are pretty much all the family member here. Like, very typical immigrant family. And for us, job security and also stability was the first priority. And as the result, I am in this middle of nowhere in the Pennsylvania. And I like it. Don't get me wrong. I like this place, and I enjoy this quiet time. At the same time, I cannot get like a raw fish, nice raw fish so easily. Yet when I went to the Berkeley 2 years ago, I saw many Asian store, and they sell good fish, like edible, edible fish. And I sometimes wonder, why am I here where we have somewhat choice to go anywhere we want? Like, if we have a family here, it is very understandable to be here, to stay here, and then take care of the families. But we don't have that restriction or strings attached. So I sometimes wonder. I like it here. I like it here though. But yeah, it's interesting. So Keiko-san is from Santa Cruz. Sashiko-san is from. He is actually not from. Is in the Berkeley area. Well, one day I hope I can visit. I can make a visit. I enjoyed the visit 2003 years ago. It was probably still in the COVID. I was wearing the mask, I believe. One of the grandmas in my sewing group is going on a quilting cruise to Alaska. I think that's what I read about, like a cruising with a lot of stitching activities on it. And that sounds super great. Well, I have to restrict myself not to go to casino because I quit everything when I became a father. I quit drinking, smoking, and gambling. Pretty much everything that you don't want to hear like with everything right before the so gotta stop that. Yeah, one day I would like to. Well, we used to before COVID, so we have to kind of say often before COVID. Before COVID, we had several opportunities of Sashiko meetups in New York. I had a really good friend who would offer the place for us to get together. So I hope that I can keep offering those as we go. Well, I offer the gathering online, but online is great. At the same time, the in person is also very good too. Well, one day, one at a time. So I don't have any plan for this year anymore besides the Japan tour, which is gonna be quite big. At the same time, it's not gonna require, huh? It's not a teaching. It's not teaching opportunities, and it requires a lot of preparation. But that kind of preparation can be shared. Some of the preparation can be shared on the Instagram and stuff like that, like in social media. So I probably will focus on creating a lot of content, including the videos and Instagram post, Patreon post. So I hope that I keep sharing, I keep sending those messages that Sashiko is very different now. It's very different. And the more I go to the workshop and then see more opportunity to have a more opportunity to see how Sashiko became differently, the more I realize it. It's like I wrote on the today's Instagram post, but can you describe, I mean, not a you as here, but because you're not the one who I really like to or would need to deliver the message. But like this is more like analogy. Can you describe your whole life in one sentence? Well, let's say one paragraph. The paragraph is like a few sentences. Decades of years. If you need to summarize it in one sentence, it is very, very. I mean, it's probably possible, and that's what job interviews are all about. You have to summarize who you are on the resume, and you have to present how good we are to get that job. But we all know that it's not that, like, the information on the resume or one sentence explanation itself is not everything about him or her or them. It does not probably include the preferences, what they like, what to do. So in order to get to know that, it is better to be a friend, or even more, probably like, closer relationship or even family. And for anybody actually who wish to learn what Sashiko is, I want them to see more than what it looks like. So I want you to be a friend of Sashiko, not just the person who make a judgment based on the piece of paper, or let's say that those make a decision based on how they look, just by photo or something. Unfortunately, right now, Sashiko introduced in English are focusing on one side of it. It's analogy, but this is how shallow that I feel. The Sashiko I see now is like me saying that I like you because you look pretty. And that's a very important aspect of the relationship. You look pretty to me, so that's great. I like it. But that is not the whole picture of the relationship, I hope. Especially when they get more, if they spend more time. But Sashiko introduced in English right now is saying that only good things about you or me is how it looks. And because how it looks great, you like me or I like you. And everything else is not a big deal. And it's not true, right? When it's easy to imagine that it's not true when it becomes to the relationship, but it is how it is right now in English. This week I went back and watched the video on Boro exhibit that the Japan Society held in 2020, right when COVID happened. There are 5 videos on YouTube. Yeah, the Boro exhibition traveled to I forgot. Stockholm. I think they had a pretty big exhibition in the Sweden, Stockholm, and they made a very beautiful catalog. So if you are interested in that, you may want to try to get that. I think Slow Fiber Studio in Berkeley, Yoshiko-san, Wada-sensei, Yoshiko Wada probably carries some of the copies, if I am not mistaken. I do have one copy somewhere, but it's not for sale. That collection which traveled over the world were once, or for a long time, they were exhibited in Tokyo. The name was Amuse Museum. And 2019 or 18, they decided to close it because of the age of the building as well as the funding issue, I guess. I don't know who owned the collection at this moment, but it kind of traveled. And one of the destinations in the US was the New York Japan Society. And I had a workshop in the Japan Society in New York before that. And I think they contacted me to do this Boro workshop, but I kind of told them that Boro is not something they can teach. I mean, they can learn Sashiko and they can make Boro, but Boro is not something I don't have any workshop to teach how to make Boro, so I kind of said no. And that was 2020. I probably would have canceled that because of the COVID, but that's the stories behind that Boro. Hello, Leiko-san. There is a saying in English, looks doesn't last, but cooking does. I think that's the reason I cook. I cook, and she stays then. I often describe the difference between Japanese and American, the English, and I only things I can kind of talk about is the American culture because I'm in the US. Most of the comparison, most of the description I share is based on the difference between Japanese culture and American culture, and which can be very, American culture can be very, very varied based on the location. So it's kind of dangerous to generalize everything. At the same time, it is quite important to explain the difference. And although I share the differences, there are a lot of similarities too. That's why I keep asking them to imagine that there would be something similar and different simultaneously. Well, there's so many words that cannot be translated into English, vice versa too. There are many English words that we cannot explain in Japanese. Like cultural appropriation cannot be translated. As long as I know, I cannot translate it. I don't know if I can explain that. Passive aggressive cannot be translated well. I don't know if I can translate passive aggressive well in Japanese. There are many words which I cannot think of at this moment. But also there are many words from Japan to here, the Japanese to English, that we cannot translate very well. And I just want to imagine that why it is so difficult to translate. It's just a language, right? And it's just a tool. I mean, not just, but it's mainly a tool to translate. And if it's just a tool to translate, why is it so difficult to transform A to B? It's because we have different normal. We can say that ordinary, something we expect. It's not a rule because it's not defined by law, or it's not really, it's not something we can enforce others, but we follow without specific explanation, and that's what we call those ordinary things are called culture, part of the culture too. I mean, not a culture itself, the part of the culture. That is why it is very important to live in Japan and get that ordinary as their ordinary when they teach about something outside of their culture. When they just enjoy it, you don't have to worry about it. You can be always the guest. And as long as you're the guest, we are gonna be the host. And then that's a very good relationship. I want to enjoy a lot of things, and if you like to enjoy kimono, go ahead. You're the guest. There's no problem with the guest wearing this, kimono in Japan. I don't have any problem with that. However, if the guest start deceiving others, saying that they know everything about that culture without proper knowledge, and start teaching or making money, then that's gonna be a lot of issues. Right? It's not a guess. They are not local. If they are local, that's fine, but they are not local, but they pretend that they are local, yet changing the expectation in the local. And that's what I'm trying to fight back. I suppose it could be communicated as cultural plagiarism. I think so. I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce that word. Plagiarism. So the thing is that how we can kind of mutually agree that there is difference. We are different. So therefore it is very difficult to understand each other. And that's a very fundamental agreement that in order to understand different culture. So my mother-in-law, so my wife's mother, cooks a lot, and she cooks well. But in her culture, she is grown up in the culture where when the guest finish his or her plate, that means that they did not offer enough. So if there are any food left on the plate, she would add, like, that was schnitzel. That was like a chicken and the pita next to that. And when she saw me emptying the plate, she always add more. And in the Japanese culture, in many cases, it is recommended, or it is polite to finish everything served. So we discipline the kids, saying that do not leave any grain of rice after eating it. If you waste that one grain of rice, your vision might go. I don't know how scary it is that, but that's kind of how we understand, how we're grown up. So we don't really leave any food behind. So when I met them for the first time, they served me a very, delicious dinner, and I enjoyed and finished it. And she gave me more. And I started feeling like, well, I have to finish this to be polite. And every time I finished, she felt bad that I was not eating enough. So at the end of the dinner, it was more like the competition. Who is more comfortable? We did not communicate at all. We did not know each other, and we did not know the difference. So I kept eating until like my stomach was almost up and everything, and she kept cooking. So in this case, both means well. I meant well, she meant well, but it happens because of the difference. And we can laugh about it right now. And it's just family thing, so it can be explained by somebody else. But that is the difference we are talking about. That's the cultural difference we are talking about. That's the risk of learning Sashiko from somebody who does not know anything about Sashiko. Not Sashiko, anything about Japanese culture. They might be leaving something very, very, very important. And the more I teach, the more I think that they are leaving something very important behind. I fear in all textile art, there is many teachers who tried something once and then turn around and try to teach. They end up with students that are confused doing things incorrectly. Then they call my work in tears about a project. Sorry, let me read it again. They call my work in tears about a project. Sorry, I might not get that sentence. They call your work in tears, they're crying, about a project. Sorry if I don't get that well, I'm sorry about that. I fear in all textile art, there is many teachers. Yes, they call my work to get help to fix things. That sucks. They call my work to get help to fix things. Oh, that's sad. Oh, you work for textile art supply place. Oh. Well, it's very, how can I put it this way? It's very difficult. And especially teaching has become like the entertainment, as I always say. And don't get me wrong, I don't want you to kind of twist my word. But in my understanding, teaching used to be more sacred. Something more responsible. Like Spider-Man. Great power comes with great responsibility. Was it like that? And I believe that very strongly. I agree with that. The great power comes with very great responsibility. Teaching is like that. So if the teaching itself is toward very small friend group or, you know, families or those communities, I wouldn't probably mind much. But when internet is so normal to us, the student can be anywhere in the world. So based on what they teach, how they teach, what they teach is not more important. What they teach is less important than what they offer or how they offer. If they can do a good marketing, if they can teach what they want to learn, that's already a teaching opportunities. That's the reason I say that teaching has become the entertainment. It's not like what teacher wants to teach. It's based on what the students wants to learn. I'm not talking about all the cases, in some cases. So teaching has become something different. And those teachers tend to define the answers, correct way to do it, because that's how they get power. So it is very, 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 very difficult. It's not, there isn't much we can do from, I mean, we cannot do much to change the teachers because they don't change. They have reason to be like that. If they can't change, they would have. So it is more like our responsibility, like the student's responsibility, which sucks. I wish I didn't have to say that, but it's our responsibility to choose who we learn from. So we have to, the student, when the teaching was more sacred or more responsible, the student didn't have to think too much about it because of the limited choices. But now, because of so many opportunities, from entertainment to the, well, sometimes very strict one, we have to be very careful and mindful. Oops. That's good. Yeah, please communicate that's awesome. So Dharma Trading is the company that she is working at. Why did I know this? Why I have heard of this company, if I'm not mistaken. It's probably a very big company. So yeah. When I talk about teaching, many get worried and also scared, and they try to be very careful about teaching. And what I really want to think about here when it comes to teaching is that I'm not saying all teaching is bad. Please don't get me wrong. I sometimes get a misunderstanding that I'm saying all teaching is bad. So there are two kinds of teaching. There's two kinds of teaching. I always talk about it, so please find the detailed description about this. But there are two kinds of teaching. One is like our navigator or guide. And the navigator or guide as teaching is like a school teacher. I have a daughter who is gonna be a 4th grade, and I cannot express my appreciation of, gratefulness to the teachers every year. But those school teachers are teaching, and their goal is to guide students to find something they might be interested. So for that purpose, their skill set is more like a general. I think Chasing a Thread is the name for that, but her teaching is like that too. Especially for the company, like that company. Textile art itself is a very, very big field. So it is almost impossible to be professional in one thing. Yet she is probably teaching or as the guide to introduce a lot of things. And for those teachers, I always encourage to mention, for that purpose, I always encourage them to teach about Sashiko, because they are opening up another opportunities for somebody who are very new to Sashiko. And I'm more than grateful for those people who teach Sashiko as the guide, because they don't define the answer so easily. They mention about Sashiko, but they don't really start defining the answers. So that's one kind of teaching, and if that's the type of teaching they're doing, my intention is to offer as much support as possible. Ideally, if they can mention my name to learn further, that's absolutely great. But that's one beautiful way in sharing the information and knowledge. The second kind of teaching is the professionals, more like a specialist, like a math professor in the college. And they're not they don't know anything about outside of their specialty or, their field, but they are very specific about their field, right? And I am in that category. Let's say that for Sashiko, I am in the, for the Sashiko and for the Sashiko we practice, I am that category. I cannot probably speak on behalf of other Sashiko. I shouldn't be, but that's okay, because those even math professors have their own field. But it is very wrong if one says that he is the math professor who cannot do the calculus. I don't think it's gonna happen, because in order to get in order to go through the college, in order to go through the master and PhD, they have to have the basic or even advanced understanding of the calculus to go through the PhD. So it's impossible that a math professor cannot do the calculus to be the professor. But that's the power of being professional. And the teaching that I criticize is that, unfortunately, in Sashiko, they are math professors who cannot do the calculus. So they might be in the profession in somewhere else, so they can name their stitching something else, but that's not Sashiko. So they are probably copying something they learned on the book, but that's not really the professions. And those two differences, I hope that I explained enough that there are two kinds of teaching. Probably there are more kind of teaching, but in my understanding, there are mainly two kinds of teaching. One is more like a guide, and one is more like a specialist. Both requires responsibility. At the same time, one is, like, as long as they know what they're doing, what they are offering, and when they are clear on what they're offering, I think it's a good thing. So I don't have any problem with the Sashiko teachers who keep saying that this is the only one part of Sashiko. So for the other Sashiko, please go to other places to learn more. I don't have any problem with that because they're just enriching the experience. However, if one is teaching, which is somebody's doing, if somebody say that this is the all one stop for all of the learning for Sashiko, then that's a very wrong, false statement. And I cannot stand that. I hope I explained that. Sorry, I'm going to go back to the comment. Thank you for the comments. Robin, it has always been important to consider the source, but with current technology, it can be like trying to sip from the fire hose. Fire hose? Yep. Oh, that's a very good way to describe it. I like that. It's like a trying to taste a very sip of water from the fire hose. You have to open your mouth and then probably you will get damaged by the pressure coming into your mouth. That's a very, I like that. Some people learn something to teach and skip the part of being really a student. And I think it's probably what it is. It's what it is. And it's very unfortunate, but that's why we as a student need to be kind of careful about it. I don't want to put this responsibility on the learner because, you know, those learners include many younger generations too. So I really appreciate those who try to get a correct answers and, you know, authentic information. I hope what I offer is gonna help that. At the same time, it is quite important to understand that there is no such a thing as the correct answer. I don't want to be too philosophical, but it is the answer for me, but it cannot be always the answer for others. So in Japanese teaching, not only Sashiko, but others as well, I don't really, I don't want to say I don't trust, but we don't really offer the answer, correct answer so easily, because that correct answer is one's opinion. So there's a concept of shuhari, that's more like how Japanese way, though, practice is built by. And the first step is to protect. They have to have the masters and they really have to be able to learn from the master. In that process, there's no such a thing as correct answer. But by having somewhat answers, in the next step after decades of years, they try to break it. So they kind of assume that the master's correct answer, and the next step is to break that, kind of contradict it. And after they break that, the next step is to leave that place and then become his own. And by repeating it, they can expand the ramification of that practice. So one upstream, but it's kind of rare to have only one string. So instead of the only one strings, the Japanese culture kind of spread, like, you know, like a vein, spread. Sword fighting is one of the interesting things. So if you have time, if you don't mind reading Musashi, I think it's translated in English as well. So Musashi explains that well, if I'm not mistaken. But Sashiko is not gonna fall into that category because it has not become the like way of practice yet. and I don't think it will be. So it's not as strict as that, but I think we are following the same principle too. On another note, I am curious about the project I am working on. Will you spear on it a bit? Sure. I gotta go in 10 minutes or so. But live stream, I hope that I can do a little longer live streaming in the future, but today I gotta go at 10 o'clock. So after this much thread, I will flip it. I will flip that. If you're like a long time follower of this live streaming, I apologize that I may be repeating the same stories. Today I explained several stories, but every stories are sometime every stories are sometimes I talked about every single stories at some point, so I hope it's a good refresh memory. But can you spell the name of the person you said we should read? Musashi is probably the title. M-U-S-A-S-H-I. Let me check. I don't want to give you the wrong information. Yep. That's the. It's written in English. It's M-U-S-A-S-H-I. M-U-S-A-S-H-I. And that's Eiji Yoshikawa. The author's name is Eiji Yoshikawa. Ada. Well, if you can read Japanese, 吉川英治さんの宮本武蔵って本です。I did not read it in English, so. But it's. My wife enjoyed that. I don't know why she enjoyed it, but she enjoyed it. I think the library, like local library should have it. It's written by the Japanese author. It's about it's warrior. It's about samurai. Miyamoto Musashi was a samurai, and it's the kind of like a life of his. It's about his life. Wow, it's a horrible samurai, but it's about his life, and in the middle of the story, they will explain how the Japanese samurai warrior would think, like how their brain works, how their understanding works. Facing life with the fierceness, I don't know that. Maybe so, maybe not. I don't see that. Facing the fierce, no. I don't think so. Facing the... My son read it in English when he was in elementary school and inspired. That is great. Yep. So it's Musashi by Eiji Yoshikawa. I don't think you can find other books. It's probably one book. So that Bushido is the way of samurai. I don't like the translation the way of samurai too. Bushido is a little bit more than that, but there are quite many books to explain what samurai is. And I think that novel I talked about is one way to learn that. And another way is to read Hagakure, but that's probably not written in English too. I don't know. But I will make a list of the reading materials for that. It's not gonna relate to Sashiko much, but it may explain a little bit of my approach to Sashiko, I guess. Sashi's house that he was born is near my hometown, and we used to visit when we go back to Japan every year. Wow, that's awesome. Minamoto. He was born in Edo, right? No? If I'm not mistaken. Well, I'll research it later. You can give us reading homework. Yeah, okay. I'll do that. I'll do it for the about Sashiko gathering. The problem of reading this assignment is that I haven't read it in English. So there's a bit of like gap between, even if it's the same book, there might be some gap. And I don't want to read in English. My English is, I mean, you know, I graduated from the four-year college, so I can read, I guess. But my reading is extremely slow in English, and I can read probably 10 times faster in Japanese. So, recommendation providing the reading materials, reading this sounds like that I need to read. But again, it's a very good practice for me to speak English and, you know, share the message. So yeah, I will work on that. So I don't think reading is gonna help that radically. It may help, but it won't solve it. It's okay. It's okay that we have a difference. It's the beginning. It is really necessary place. It was so long, you gotta trim down more. Yeah. 400 years. So yeah, we have to pin a little more, but the 400 years wasあれ宮本武蔵って岡山県ごめん Sorry, it's not an Edo. I mean, it's not an Edo period. And it's not an Edo place. 失礼しました。I just wanted to thank you for your amazing work. Your channel is the reason I got into Sashiko. It means a lot. Thank you so much for that. I don't think I'll even understand. It's like a koan with no clear explanation. It is okay. I don't understand American culture at some point too, so actually not at all. So はあ、やっぱ岡山なんですね。失礼しました。どんなわけねえか。Thank you for coming. I gotta go soon, so let me share this piece, which I still don't like. I still don't like it. I want to see you soon in Florida. Yes, I am going to Florida. March, was it? I think it's March. And That's one of the few opportunities I teach 2025. So if you are near Florida, if you can travel, that's gonna be a 3 days workshop, and I have been getting pretty good review on those 3 days. It's really full of learning. It's not really, well, I will offer many opportunity to let's enjoy together, but again, 3 days is always full of something, so. You know. It's, yes, so the workshop I offer in Florida is the workshop, 3 days workshop in the studio. So this is the item that I'm working on. It's the wrapping cloth. It's about 110 centimeters square. And yeah, I don't like it. Just being honest, I don't like it now. But you know, many people agreed that I should finish first and then decide if I like it or not. So I am adding all of the stitching, and I'm not gonna fill all the gap. And I plan to continue stitching until this becomes one square. So once this is gone, I will stop. Here, I don't know. Well, this can be stopped here. So until that it gets one space, I keep stitching. Yep. So it's just like that. I mean, some people like it. I agree. I mean, it's really the preference, and it's okay to like it. It's okay to not to like it. I prefer that we have a preference. So it's just too much color to me. It's you know, I chose that I use this color, but it's a little too much color to me. Okay. Yeah, for the information, please check my website, or I think on the description area I may have, yeah, I do have a link for the I do have an information article summarizing the link for the available workshop in 2025. So please check this YouTube live streaming description area. Then you can find the link, and then from that link you can find the link to register yourself. That it's a very rare opportunity because I offer it only a year, only once a year for that, for the Florida workshop, 3 days workshop. Okay, yeah, I mean this is really, if you like it, that's great. If you don't like it, welcome to my taste. I really appreciate for those who came. Oh, just one more question. By adding this much stitches, is it heavy or stiff? It is going to be heavy, but because of the thread we use, it's not gonna be stiff. It's more soft, for that matter. It's heavy, but it's more snuggly. It's not gonna get well. It depends on the thread we use, and we don't use the other thread. We only use one kind of thread, so it does not really get stiff. It's just the it's very snuggly, but heavy for sure. What's the thread that you're using? The thread is also on the description area. You can find a lot of information from the description area. I introduced all the Sashiko threads, Sashiko needles, everything there, I believe. If not, it is there. Supplies in this video, yes. And if not, yeah. No, well, it's there. Okay, one last thing. I do have a really big fan that who comes every single live streaming and then put the dislike button. And it's, that's a very good thing. But at the same time, in order to keep the healthy channel, it would be great if you could put the like button. The higher percentage I have, the better it is. And I will come back next Thursday. Next Thursday is August 15th, Wong. And around the same time, I might talk about the day of August 15th. It's a pretty special day for the Japanese. So we might talk about that. So that being said, if you have any questions, please leave the comments so that I can bring it to the next live streaming. I will not talk about techniques or something like that, but from cultural perspective, I will do that. And otherwise, I will keep sharing the stories on the Instagram, and I will see you on the next Thursday live streaming. Let me check the last comment. I love that by you working on with it. Sorry. I love that by you working on this with us, it's becoming a stream of consciousness. That's what Sashiko is. that is what Sashiko is. Many people misunderstand Sashiko is just a matter of stitching. No, it's not. It's the stream of consciousness too. And I don't want to be too spiritual, too philosophical, but as long as one cares for the stitches size, which is probably the mainstream of that, they will never get to the point. Okay. And I really appreciate for those who come with the Japanese understanding and input. Well, I think that's about it. All right, I will come back next Thursday with some other stories. I hope you have a good night. Bye-bye.